Well, it's an interesting one. And sometimes in our nation, we need to get to a point where we have intellectual conversation that will lead to some progress, and some people having to think about the fact that the nation has to come first above regional political interests. And tonight we'll be having the conversation. What will interest the average Nigerian? What will interest the nation at large, and what benefits is this agreement of today will be? Don't forget, it was in Kaduna State when the governors first came out, the governors and the leaders of the North came out and warned about the issue of the tax reforms. And of course, when the propositions came, there were those who stood and said, look, be careful about the implication of the tax reform proposition. And back and forth, we saw the stance of the governors and those who say this has to be redone at the NEC meeting. It was agreed that the bills had to be taken back, reviewed, and returned, and reworked. But today, there seems to be some agreement. I'll be showing you a breakdown of what they agreed on. But tonight, there is one person. They have put in an intellectual debate on this matter. Well, he has been tagged and given a name as though he has a political interest and he was fighting the government, the president, Bola Tinubu. And he has said it severally on this program that he's not fighting the governor. A few days ago, he appeared. I never knew that this occasion was going to come. I had to plead with him to come back to the program because he's being one voice that has spoken loudly about this tax reform. Like the governor of Nasarawa State is back on the program. Governor Abdullahi Sule, it's good to see you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Would I say congratulations to you?
I think it's a wonderful day for Nigeria. Congratulations to Nigeria. Because at the end of the day, we have achieved something through consultations. First, congratulations to Mr. President for actually guiding us through the process. When we met with Mr. President recently, you know, he said that most of these observations you have, you can actually go ahead and amend them without necessarily withdrawing the bill. You remember the contentious issues that we have as far as the bill is concerned is one on the VAT. Two, on the VAT is combination of so many issues, but one on the VAT. Secondly, you know, the other issue that we have, and we continue to mention it, is the aspect of saying that as far as Naseni, TETFUND, and the rest of that, we're actually going to be phased out. We express big concerns as far as those areas are concerned. You know, so, and then we came back about the sharing formula of the VAC itself, you know, where we were saying that about 60% of it was going to be taken and kept aside and be paid to based on derivation. And I think that's where the heated debates are. So at the end of the day, I thank God Almighty that they have been, the Tax Reform Committee, you know, chaired by both Taiwo Oyedele and Zach Adedeji, understood our positions based on what Mr. President has said. And I remember appearing on your program, you know, recently when I said, the moment Mr. President said you can go and make changes, I am perfectly okay, I'm satisfied. We are going to wait for the day of they are going to have the meeting, and we will present them. And today we presented them, and definitely they accepted them, and everybody was relieved. And the people who were calling us names are now to be the ones who will understand whether what we were saying makes sense or not.
So let's clear the air about, first and foremost, before I get deep into the meat of the matter, the politics of it. Would this affect the North negatively?
The way it's presented today, it should affect the North positively. The reason why I'm telling you that, one of the biggest things that the North, all over the North, are fighting for, and that's what we initiated and we were fighting, is a situation where you said you are going to increase VAT from the 7.5% today that is there to 10% this year, in fact starting this month, and then to 12.5%, and then to 15%, which means you are going to double it. We were concerned that by doing that, it was going to actually increase the huge inflation that we have at the moment. The inflation of Nigeria today is about 34%. And what I was explaining earlier today is that this 34% is actually in the states where I lived and worked for, say like Lagos. But if you move to the deep north, it's far more than 34%. is maybe somewhere around maybe 50% even. So it is the average that they take about, because in the North, we are not so lucky with the planning in the past to have industries, to have people who can work, to have people who can have purchasing power, to have people who can do that. So it will affect them the moment you increase VAT, because prices of items will increase. And so the people cannot afford. So a lot of people will actually go and live without the rice, without the sugar, without all the other things that attract VAT. Today, I'm the happiest person when we presented that, and the committee said, if this is what you believe is the right thing, go ahead.
So, so I asked you that question because there were those who believe that the interest of the North, there will be, it's going to be jeopardized, that the North is going to feel the brunt of it if it was passed. But as it is right now, and I'm going to show our viewers what you agreed, the new formula that you agree with the tax reform.
Yes.
So now there seems to be the tension, there should be calm in the North, that this is in the interest of Nigeria.
Yes, this is done not actually just for the North. It will affect every state that has similar challenges with the North. There are so many other states in the South that have similar challenges in the North. You know, I married from the East. I traveled extensively in the East. I was an MD of 2 companies that are all over Nigeria. I moved all over Nigeria.
So you are Wazobia?
Yeah, and I know the situation that we have, you know, in some other parts of the South. You know, some southern states are doing fantastic, but there are so many southern states that are not doing so well, just like the North. You know, so that's why I say it is for Nigeria. It is not really
so because as a cake, as our tax law, the bodies of laws that we have guiding taxation in Nigeria has been, there were those who also worry that in northern Nigeria the issue of inheritance is a major concern. Does this agreement today also settle and clear the air about what could become a danger to the principles of inheritance in the North?
No, you see, the aspect of that is that it's already in the existing law. There has been some misinformation about some items of this tax reform bill. As I said, there were 4 bills. But most of the time, people keep looking at the tax bill, you know. There is also the registration bill is part of it. There is also, you know, there are 4 bills in totality, you know. So there is a bill that addresses multiple taxation. There are so many good things about this particular reform, but there are things that affect people negatively. I don't want to say that not only affects people generally negatively, because inflation is everywhere. When there is inflation, high prices, it will affect everybody, you know, and things like that. So when we brought it up, it's just that the northern governors brought the matter up, but the northern governors brought a matter that affects the whole of Nigeria. And I had somebody arguing that, no, it's just second-term governors, you know, it's all crap. It's people who don't understand what is happening. You know, in reality, at that meeting that we had of 19 northern governors, everybody agreed with the position that the northern governors took. So it's not about first time or second time or third time governors or this and that. It's not about that. You know, it's about interests of Nigeria. And I'm happy that today we have been able to arrive at something. So I congratulate Mr. President for that. I congratulate Zag Adedeji for that. I congratulate Oyedele, you know, for that. The reason why I'm congratulating them, for you to put up a position and a debate to be put forward, and for you to accept that, okay, it's a superior debate, I accept. You know, it's not an easy thing. Not everybody has the capacity to do that.
So this is being saying as though there is a political attack on the Tinubu presidency. This was part of how it was seen, and it was also seen partly as the North versus the South.
No, as a matter of fact, is this debate that was put forward is for the protection of even the presidency. For people like us, you know, if ordinary people begin to feel heavy punch about the economic situation, the president will look bad. You understand? So for some of us who have identified these weaknesses and brought them up, and then we are discussing them, is people who truly love the president. Because if you don't love the president, you say, let it go. And the moment a common man is hit by some of these things, the common man will actually turn around and hate the president for that. So where is the debate about a fight on the president? No, it's an intellectual debate between intellectuals, people who understand what it's all about, and they are the people who debated it, they understood each other, and they have moved on. As I said in one of the meetings, you know, a lot of people who didn't even understand what was happening, they are the people who hijacked the debate, and that's the reason why it was looking like an attack. No, as an APC governor, I cannot attack an APC administration. Forget even the president, even an APC, a senator, I can attack a senator. I can attack House of Reps members. I can attack, you know, so it is not an attack. It's actually an intellectual debate about things that we know that will be detrimental to the country. It will have actually jumped our inflation. And when inflation comes, whether you are Northern or you are Southern, as long as you buy and pay VAT, it will affect you. So it's not about...
Yeah, so let's go over what... so politically speaking, the position today has given an equilibrium.
Correct.
And the presidency, the governors, and the northern elite are on the same page with this position. Correct. Is that what it looks like now?
That's what it is. Not that it looks like. That's what it is.
There are 5 points that you agreed on today.
Yes.
Right. And let me show Nigerians what the agreement was based on the communique that was read today. One of it is an agreement on the strong support for the comprehensive reform of Nigeria's archaic tax laws, and agree on the importance of modernizing the tax system to enhance fiscal stability and align with global best practices. So there is a meeting point.
Yeah.
That we need to change the laws.
Yeah, we all agreed that, you know, change is constant. We must continue to look at our laws, and where they are overdue, we reform them. Multiple taxation is one, for instance. You have to change that in order to attract investment. So that one is set. We agree.
You also agreed and endorsed of a revised value-added tax VAT sharing formula to ensure equitable distribution of resources. And I'm going to show our viewers what you agreed on today, and perhaps explain to us the difference and how this has settled the dust. You agree with the Tayo Oyedele committee and Zach Oyedeji's team that there should be a revised VAT sharing formula in this manner. And the figures are now 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, and 20% based on population.
Fantastic.
Who gave what? I mean, someone must have given something, and...
well, there has been movement of grounds. You understand? The biggest movement of ground came from the part of the committee and Mr. President. Initially, and that's what some of the governors kept asking, you know, they were fighting because it was like 60% that was going to go on derivation. And we say that one is going to hit. That's, I think, some of the governors saying, why is all the money going to Lagos if you have had that kind of debate? Yeah. It is based on that 60% that was originally suggested. So we now said, no, that is not right. Take 50% of the amount, you know, and now share that 50% equally among the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. That is one. Take 20% of it, share it according to the population, you know, because it is meant for the people. So that one is clear.
Population of its state.
Population of a state.
So you mean that the states like Lagos, Kano, Rivers, yeah, they will get some. They will probably get more.
Yeah, they will get more because
that's what it means.
Because they have more people. You know, Kano will have more people. Therefore, I don't expect at Nasarawa State to receive the same amount of people that will cater for the people of Nasarawa State like Kano. So that one we have to give in. So it's perfectly understood. You know, so but the 50% that is going to be shared right now, I think that's the catch. It's going to be shared equally. Whether you are 30, whether you are 10 times the size of another state, you will get the same amount. And that's a chunk of 50% is going to do that. And let me tell you the good thing that we achieve on that, as far as Mr. President is concerned. The current sharing formula, current one, not the one that is being revised, is 15% that goes to the federal government. Now, we say 15%, only 10% will go to the federal government. 90% will now go to the states and the local government. And it is this 90% that we are now sharing it the way that you are seeing that way. So I think anybody who has moved ground is the federal government that has moved more ground. So we should commend the federal government for moving the ground, and then we are able to do this.
So now, in all of this, our friends are at Agora Policy. It's a think tank, and based on the agreement of today, this is what their own simulation looks like from what I saw on their website and in their handles. If you look at it, it does look like states like Lagos and Rivers will bear the brunt. They might be getting less than what that accrues to them presently, or in the old or the proposition made in the bill before today.
Correct.
That's what it looks like now.
Correct. And that's fair. Okay? And I'm telling you now from my own understanding of how VAT is generated, how it is derived, and how it is actually paid back to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. So based on that, majority of these companies that are registered, and I give you a good example, FCT. I had to continue giving example with Lagos. I give you FCT. Today, FCT is actually, because if you look at it, there are no industries in FCT, right? But FCT is number 3 when it comes to derivation. You know where the derivation is coming from? Mm-hmm. There are no companies that have big capital in FCT. No. But it's because the road that you are constructing in Lafia, the payment of that road is done at FCT by the government of the Federation. Therefore, FCT gets that back as derivation. The road that you are doing in Akwa Ibom, the FCT is getting that derivation. The road that we are doing in Lagos, let Lagos now be the beneficiary, is now being paid over here. No problem. Nobody is complaining about that. But then you cannot say 60% of that goes to FCT, because if you say that, you are not fair. So the rivers is because of the oil companies. I work in rivers. I work in Port Harcourt. If you go to One, all the service companies, that's where they are. Every service company, that's where they are. And they pay a lot of VAT. That VAT is going there. So it's even a little bit different from the VAT that is paid here at the federal capital. And it's different from the VAT that is paid in that. But most of the offshore operations that we have, the moment we load it at One, and it goes directly into Bonga, Erha, Agbami, this and that, which is not River State land, but the River State benefits from it. But you cannot debate that, because that's the structure. But when you say now you give them 60%, that's a little bit.
But this has resolved that issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you look at it, for example, and Agora Policy came up with a simulation where they're saying there's a value loss to states like Rivers and Lagos. Rivers and on the other proposition, Lagos would have gotten about 43 billion based on the past November 2024 projection. But with what you have proposed today and the agreement out today in this formula, Lagos will be getting 20-something million, about 21 billion less. Now Lagos is at a loss. Rivers is going to would have lost over 16 billion. It would naturally have gotten in the old formula 18.26 billion, but with this new one, it would have gotten 11.77 billion. But there are some states that would have, that with this new formula, states like Katsina would have gotten 2 billion more. States like Zamfara would have gotten 1 billion more. Kebbi would have gotten 1 billion more. Niger would have gotten 2 billion more. Kwara would have gotten about 2 billion more. Nasarawa would have gotten 1 billion more. Plateau will get about 1 billion more. And states like Osun, about 2 billion more. So there is a spread. 34 states of the Federation would have gotten a fair share. But Lagos and Rivers will be at the brunt. They would have lost a whooping. In Lagos, about 20-something billion. In Rivers, about 10 billion plus.
Let me tell you something, Seun. You see, the idea, locally, Nasarawa sits next to Lagos. So I was sitting next to the governor of Lagos, and we were discussing this. Now, you said you are discussing something for national interest. If you are discussing something on national interest, you cannot restrict it to 1 or 2 or 3 states and say that it is national interest. So that's why Mr. President, in his wisdom, say go and check at the areas. And all of us were there when we sat down and discussed that. Now, what you are saying is actually hypothetical, is theoretical. It is not the actual thing. The actual thing will have been, if in the past we are only sharing, say, 300 billion. If now, based on the recommendations that are being made, you are no longer sharing 300 billion, you are sharing 600 billion. So The Lagos you mentioned that is losing 20 billion will still get back its 20 billion through improved revenue. Now, in this same bill, without necessarily increasing the VAT, because we have taken care of the VAT, there is no increase in VAT. Without necessarily increasing the VAT, there are so many other areas, in the free trade zone where Nigeria is being cheated. It's a situation where you tell a company, we are giving you free trade. You are not going to pay taxes. You are not going to pay everything. Go ahead, produce from here, export, and bring back the dollars for the interest of the company. Some of these companies are actually producing and then selling back into Nigeria. You understand? So you lose that tax. This reform has addressed that. So you are going to get some money back. So it is not necessarily that you are losing all the... That's why I say it's theoretical, what you are saying.
Yeah, but it's a simulation to at least give an understanding.
No, that's correct.
If 34 states gained and 2 states loses, not in that simulation, I think the generality of Nigerians will benefit.
Exactly.
But I'm interested in the 4th and the 5th recommendations or agreement that you had today. The 4th agreement on that communique says the recommendation that there should be no terminal clause for TETFUND, Naseni, and NITA in the sharing of the development levies in the bills. And we have seen ASU protesting that TETFUND should not go. The part that also gets interesting is the 5th one. The governors are supporting the continuation of the legislative process at the National Assembly that will culminate in the eventual passage of the tax reform bills, which for me, this is largely political. That the governors will now tell their lawmakers from the state, go back to the National Assembly and pass it. Is that what it interprets today?
No, let me answer the first one. Let me answer the first one you mentioned before I go to this one. One of our debates also at the Northern Governors Forum is we understand the importance of TETFUND. And I have explained to so many people that I personally now see the usefulness of TETFUND, usefulness of SUBEB, usefulness. If you go to most of the universities in Nigeria, public universities, both state and federal, nearly 50% of the projects that they have there are done actually by TETFUND. So if you say you are going to wipe out TETFUND, then of course we have to show concern. So, by the debate today that you have said, okay, we are not going to phase them out. Naseni will not be phased out. TETFUND will not be phased out. SUBEB will not be phased out. This and that. So now we have supported the position of the ASU and the rest of that. Okay? So, and ASU is also federal, so it's not a North and Southern. So I think that is one. Now the other aspect you have mentioned, something like this is a continuous engagement. Just because we have done this, it has to be presented to Mr. President. So those who will continue to lobby with Mr. President will go and tell him, Mr. President, we have sat down like you instructed, and we have done that. And this is what we have done, we agreed. And most likely Mr. President would say, fine, that's good. But it's also our responsibility to continue the engagement. There is going to be public hearing, whether we like it or not, it's part of the legislation. Then during the public hearing, we'll go again and explain to our people. And before meeting them, like today now, we had an executive session. That's why it was easier to pass this thing. So we will also have executive session with our legislators.
Because some of the lawmakers are threatening that this will not see the light of day. We will stop it. We will not allow it to go. But with what we're saying, because in the political space, the governors are a very strong bloc, and you cannot wish them away. Perhaps that's why the president, someone who also was being a governor for 2 terms, had reason and thought that I cannot wish away the wishes of the governors. Well, I think it's wisdom also and political reasoning that some of these engagement and political positions should have been made before now.
That's right.
But Governor Sule, it's interesting, and I'm actually very, very happy with what Taiwo Yedele and Zach Adedeji and their team have done. They've made Nigerians proud. We've had years upon years of archaic laws, and they've been back and forth about arguments on which way to go. And we've seen the flexibility, the vulnerabilities of Nigeria in all of these conversations. And I think Nigerians need to applaud some of these gentlemen for some of their effort and their resilience, but also to applaud some of you who also have the confidence and the boldness to speak your mind even when it is not politically expedient. But on the final note tonight, Governor Sule, In the interest of the Nigerian people, what would be the bigger picture out of this agreement today?
I think the bigger picture at the end of the day is to get it passed for the interest of Nigeria in order to attract more investment into Nigeria. Part of the reform is actually the attraction of additional investments into Nigeria. That's why you are eliminating multiple taxation on the first place. You are also going to look at stamp duties. You are also going to look at all the other royalties and the rest of that, and you are addressing them. This will encourage some of these companies that are running away from Nigeria to stay. That's why I say the tax bills are more than just VAT matter. There are so many other issues in it. So if you have not taken time to go through them, you may not understand. So I think this is the best, the first catch that is going to be there for Nigeria. For some of us, you know, like in our own state, in Nasarawa State, we're attracting a lot of investment in the area of mining and agriculture. This is an opportunity for me now to say, you know what, come in. This is going to be good for you. You are not going to go through this. Your registration for taxes is going to be that. You don't have to go to so and so place for that. There is now coordination between the Federal Internal Revenue Service and our state internal revenue services. Part of the bill is to bring that working together. Harmonization. Part of that bill is also addressing about the taxes you are going to do. We are going to give you certain amount there so that you don't have to go and tax other people this.
So, and perhaps, Governor, the political dust will have rested about the opposition against Bola Tinubu's government about issues of burden of taxation and levies. That may be because in the north we are hearing that a lot of opposition against Bola Tinubu's government. And you are an APC leader, isn't it? This may have settled the dust a bit, isn't it?
Well, no, definitely it will settle the dust because you see, most of the people in the north have been sold the idea that there are going to be additional taxes. And if you look at most of the debates, people are saying we don't want additional taxes. So we're saying today by this there is no additional taxes. Right. So I think that is the idea, and it also, you know, put to rest people who want to put heads between the president and some other people. Now they can understand that what those other people have done, you know, is actually for the interest of Nigeria. Right. You say 3 states are not going to be benefiting as much, but 34 states are going to be benefiting a lot. So where is the north and the south?
Governor Abdullahi, such a pleasure having. It's very interesting having intellectual conversation with you. It just makes you don't look like a politician when we're having an intellectual conversation. Makes it very easy. Thank you so much.
I'm an accidental politician.
Just like your friend Nasir El-Rufai, who wrote Accidental Civil Servant. Thank you so much, Indy.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.